bichlenu.
It's fine.
But by a balmum, we have another pasuk. This pasuk says that the impure and the pure can eat it together. Now Basil throws in a kavachaymer on us. You know what a kavachaymer is? Kavachaymer is it's a type of logic. It's called a fortiori. The way it works is like this: that if a weak person can lift 10 pounds, a strong person for sure can lift 10 pounds, right? That's the kavachaymer. So what we do here is we say that an impure and the pure, they can eat a sacrifice that had a blemish. It means an impure person can eat a sacrifice with a blemish. So, ma tamei, whereas for a tamei sheina eichel b'kachim kalim, normally an impure person cannot eat a sacrifice, even if it's of lesser holiness. But nevertheless, eichel b'bechar, but he can eat from a bechar that has a mum, a firstborn animal that has a blemish. Someone that's tamei can eat from it. Zar, a non-kayan, she'oichel b'kachim kalim, that he's stronger. He can eat from a sacrifice. Which type of sacrifice? Carbon Pesach, a shlamim, meiser. The owners get to eat from it, even though he's not a kayan. There's certain sacrifices the owner gets to eat from, and a tamei can't. So we see that a Yisrael, a non-kayan, is stronger when it comes to eating. He's stronger. So for sure he should be able to eat from bechar. If a tamei can eat from a bechar, but he can't eat from kachim kalim, someone that can eat from kachim kalim for sure should be able to eat from a bechar. That's Beis Hillel's logic. So therefore, a Yisrael can eat from a bechar. Gemara says, 1 second, you're saying that a weakness in tumah. If you're tamei, that makes you weaker. It says, doesn't make you weaker. Tamei can actually do a service in the temple if everyone is tamei. There's no one there to do the service, then the tamei person does it. So tamei is not weaker. Tamei is a strength here. It's more permissible. So tamei is the strength. Gemara responds to that. Says, what are you saying tamei is a strength? Regarding what? It has to be in reference to what? Basil later ba'avayda kamar. Is Basil discussing doing the avodah? Yes, in doing the avodah, it's better to be tamei than to be a Yisrael. Because if everyone's tamei, then they can do it, and the Yisrael can never do it. So, regarding avodah, yes, tamei is a strength. But regarding ba'achila kamninan, they're talking about eating. And achila zaradif, it's better to be a Yisrael when it comes to eating than to be tamei. And if a tamei person can eat from a bechar, for sure Yisrael can eat from a bechar. That's Basil's logic. So it's based on a pasuk, and then a kavachaymer is thrown on top of that. Yeah? Rabbi Kiva mater afilu oivdikechav in my time with Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva allows a non-Jew to eat from a bechar. What's the reason for Rabbi Kiva? It says, Kitzvi v'chayil. When something was tamei, we had a pasuk that says that you eat the sacrifice. You eat the sacrifice with the blemish, even if he's tamei, and you can eat it. You don't have to keep it in purity if the sacrifice had a blemish, and it's redeemed. It's psuli hamikdashim. You can eat it in tumah. And the comparison that it does for you over there is it says you can eat it like a deer and like a gazelle.
When did this animal get the blemish? Before it was redeemed or after? Does it make a difference?
Well, if it's a bechar, then it doesn't really get redeemed. It just gets the blemish, and then it gets eaten. If it's a regular psuli hamikdashim, you give it to the kayan right away. Bechar goes to the kayan right away, and then he takes it as a sacrifice, or he keeps it.
But a regular individual would give it to the bechar even if they had a mum?
It always goes to the kayan.
So how does a mum change anything?
Well, it depends if it's the kayan's ownership or if it's a kayan's sacrifice. Private or...
If he plans on bringing it as a sacrifice, then he can't have it as a mum.
Right.
But if he just wants to eat
No,
it,
but he doesn't
then the
plan.
mum has no
He's
effect.
obligated to. If it doesn't have a mum, he's obligated to be a sacrifice. If it does,
Every time a kohen gets a Bechor animal, it has to do
yeah,
So because it has a mum, he can therefore take it home.
you can take it home and eat it at home. So the kohenim weren't trusted with putting a mum in there. Okay, so there's a comparison to tzvi. Ketzvi v'chayel, matzvi v'ayol, just like a deer and a gazelle, mutar loiv dekechavim. A non-Jew can eat a deer. Af psulen mutar loiv dekechavim. You have a comparison there. The comparison we always thought was comparing tumah, that someone that's impure can eat it. Now we're saying that it's much more than that. A non-Jew can eat it. V'idach. So what does the other opinion hold that says not a non-Jew? It says tlaset tzvi v'ayol ksivi. It's a very interesting Gemara right here. Chad l'keder Rabbi Yitzchak b'Rabbi Shia. V'chad l'keder Rabbi Lazar HaKapar. V'chad, it says v'idach. So we say v'chad, matzvi v'ayol p'ter mena b'chera, p'sulam mikdashim p'ter mena b'chera. We have three in that section of Vayikra. It says three times a comparison to tzvi v'ayol. And we need them for other things. One of them we need for what Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Shia say. Rashi says he doesn't know what it is. You see that? The other one is for Rabbi Lazar HaKapar. That's it. The Rashi says is in Masechta Chulin. Did they tell you over there what it says? What did Rabbi Lazar HaKapar say in Chulin?
Yeah, but I'll give it to you people.
He's coming to tell us that you don't have to slaughter a bird. It says that there's a comparison from tzvi v'ayol to psulei hamikdashim. That just like psulei hamikdashim need to be shechted, a sacrifice that has a blemish in it needs to be slaughtered. So too, it's a deer and a gazelle need to be slaughtered before they're eaten. This is, in that case, we didn't mention anything about a bird. It must mean that a bird doesn't need slaughtering min haTorah. It's only rabbinic. So that would be that Rabbi Lazar HaKapar's opinion. Now, then the last thing is that tzvi v'ayol, a deer and a gazelle don't have a firstborn, the laws of a firstborn offspring. So too, psulei hamikdashim, if there was a sacrifice that has a blemish, and the blemish doesn't mean it can't have a child. The blemish could mean a little cut on the lip or it has an offspring. So that offspring is not a bechor. Just like a deer, a bechor is only the firstborn child. Firstborn offspring that's a sacrifice is only a sheep and a goat. Shori kesav v'yez. Or a right, sheep and a goat.
Or a cat.
Not a cat. Not a cat. Not a shor. A shor.
Sure.
Kesav v'yez. So it's three. Now we learned that it's only a sheep and a goat, right? What about a cow?
Yeah,
Okay. To see the chumash. So what we just said here is that the opinion that doesn't agree with Rabbi Akiva, it's because they're using all the tzvi v'ayols to teach us other things. But Rabbi Akiva uses the tzvi v'ayol to teach us that a non-Jew is allowed to eat a bechor. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. It's taught in a Braisa. Bechor ein machil naisei lenidas. If a woman is a nida, she's impure. So she's not allowed to eat from the bechor. Now, are we talking about a bechor that has a mum? Yeah. With the mum. Divrei Beis Shammai, this is the words of Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai, if you remember, said that a Yisrael wasn't allowed to. Now Beis Shammai says that a Nida is not allowed to. Right, even though she's a Kehanis. Beis Hillel say it's not a problem. My time at the Beis Shammai, what's the reason for Beis Shammai? Exactly the pasuk that we had before, that their flesh should be for you. We're talking about the flesh of a bechor should be for you, just like a chazav v'shoik, just like the chest and the thigh, which is given to the kohen from a shlamim. Ma hasam nidas loy, just like over there, if someone's tamei, they're not allowed to eat from the shlamim. Afacha nidas loy, so here too, because there's a comparison to chazav v'shoik. Beis Hillel, what does Beis Hillel say? It's pretty clear. It says hani mili tam. That's when it's a real sacrifice. But aval balmum hatami v'atara yechlenu. Supposed to say. But if it has a mum, it says the pure and the impure are allowed to eat it together like a deer. So what's the comparison? It sounds like Beis Hillel is so correct. It says if a tummy can eat, if it has a mum, a tummy. Beis Shammai says that that's just the tumah, like so if that comes from outside. Tummy sheretz or something can eat it, or a tummy mace. But if the body is tummy because of something that happens to the body, we find that not. Well, I'm sorry. If it's a tumah from the body, then they can't eat it together with the person that's eating this. They can't eat it together. They can't. In other words, when it says hatami v'atar yachdav, the impure and the pure together eat it, that's not referring to tumah yotel of migufe. That's only referring to an outside tumah. And he goes on to explain dashkan the palagrachmana bein tumah yotel of migufe bein tumah shein yotel of migufe, because we find that God, the merciful one, the Torah, differentiates between these two types of tumah. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. Pesach shabbat b'tumah. Let's say the congregation is tamei. It's Pesach, so they bring the carbon Pesach, even though they're tamei. That's the rule. Nevertheless, lo yoichle menu zavim u'mitzara and zavis v'nidus v'yoldes. Why was the congregation tamei? Because they came in contact with a corpse. Everyone went to a funeral, whatever. So, at that carbon Pesach, the Azav and a Mitzayra and a Nida and the woman that gave birth are not allowed to eat from the carbon Pesach, even though they're also Tamei and everyone else is Tamei. But no, there's a difference. They're Tamei, everyone that's permitted is Tamei from an outside source. These people are prohibited because they're Tamei from an inside source, from a source of Tumah that comes from the body. So they're prohibited. So we see that there's a distinction between these two types of Tumah. And so therefore, Beis Shammai says that when it comes to eating a sacrifice that's invalid because of a blemish, there's a distinction between these two types of Tumah. And yes, it says in the Torah that someone that's Tamei, impure, is allowed to eat from it. But that's only an outside source of Tumah, not a source that comes from the body. So therefore, neither can eat from the Bechor. Beis Hillel says, Hasamut Galer Rachmana Tami Nefesh. Over there, it says that who goes to the Pesach Sheni? It says, Ishki Yatami Lenefesh. Only when an individual goes to the Pesach Sheni, that's when he's Tami Lenefesh, because he became impure to a corpse. So, and from there we understand that only an individual goes to the Pesach Sheni, but not if the entire congregation is tamei to a corpse. So over there it's clear which tumah is permissible by the carbon Pesach is only tamei lenefesh, is only tamei to a corpse. So Beis Hillel says, yes, I agree with you that by a carbon Pesach, a Zav and a Zava and a Nida and a Yoldas, all of these people that are tamei because of something that happened to their body, or that came from their body, that over there they're not allowed to eat from the carbon Pesach, even though everyone else is tamei and they're allowed to. I agree to you about that, because over there it says in the pasuk that the exemption of tumah is tamei lenefesh, is tamei to a corpse. But when it says stam in the Torah tamei, automatically it's only tamei to a corpse and not. It says clear that everyone is allowed to eat Any tamei is allowed to, it doesn't say any, it says tamei is allowed to eat from the sacrifice that has a blemish. It doesn't say specifically which tamei, so it means all of them. Aval hacha tamei stomach siv, over here it says just plain, in undescribed tamei, so we say that there's no difference. Okay. Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught in the Bais, Ein margilin b'yamtiv. On Yom Tov, you're allowed to shech. You're allowed to slaughter an animal on Yom Tov. So, when you slaughter the animal, you have to get the meat out. So you take the skin off. So there's different ways of taking the skin off. You can take off the skin in a way that you're going to do something big with the skin. You're going to turn it into this huge flask. They would have like these water things or something. Yeah, that's a picture of this. But you keep it, the whole skin intact, the whole hide, it's all intact. And you make these, it's a water, it carries water, a canteen. But the benefit of it is that when it's empty, you just fold it up. Not like an empty water bottle, though the plastic water bottles, they squish them up also, but then they don't use them again. Over there, it would just fold up, and then you fill it up again with water, but that was very convenient. So it's a big job, though, to take off the skin, and we're going to see later in the Gemara that it actually, if you do it properly, you're going to end up cutting into the meat to save the skin. You can end up ruining some of the meat, but you're working on this. You can't have it both. You can't have the perfect meat and all the hide. You have to pick which one. So the Gemara says over here.
But why isn't that usher of separating, like, what you don't want? Yeah, but even with food, you can't separate, like the peel.
We're talking about on Yom Tov. Now it's true on Yom Tov the laws of Bais are slightly different, but you're allowed to take off to make it edible.
I'm saying there's a way you do it.
There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. Over here we're saying on Yom Tov we're not allowed to put in this extra effort to salvage the hide, because the hide is not what you need for Yom Tov. You need the meat for Yom Tov. That's what you're going to eat. So you're only allowed to work on getting the meat, not on getting the hide. And it's extra effort. By similar to this, the Bais says, Ein margilim bebechar. You're not allowed to do this to a bechar. To get margilim means, I think, that you start from the feet, and to pull it, to get all of the hide off. It's this big job. Just the only thing I can imagine is, and this is much worse than that, is trying to take off a wetsuit. When you have to take. So. But this is actually attached, so this is probably even worse. So, okay. It's a big job. And also a sacrifice that had a blemish, you're not supposed to treat it like this, to take off the hide, to save the hide. The Gemara says like this, we understand what's going on by Yom Tov. You're putting an effort for something that's not what's meant to be done on Yom Tov. It's not Tzorech Echel Nefesh, because the hide is not what you need for Yom Tov. You don't need to hide. Thank you. Beautiful. El Bechor Man Tana. But who's the author? Who's the one that says that the Bechor, you're not allowed to take off the skin, take off the hide in such a way? It's a firstborn animal. It has a mum. It says, I'm Rav Chisda Beis Shammai. Rav Chisda says that it's Beis Shammai. Where's Rav Chisda on the chart? Rav Chisda is a student of Rav Huna here. He's a friend of Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef. Rav Chisda, the father-in-law of Rava and Rami Bar Chama. So, Rav Chisda is going to give us an explanation for this, and Rav Chisda is going to give us an explanation for the next piece. Rav Chisda says, Beis Shammai, Damar ein machil nesid lenidis. Beis Shammai says that a sacrifice that has a blemish retains some of its kedusha, and a bechor that has a blemish as well, and therefore a bechor, even though you can eat it together, even though someone that's tamei can eat it, but that's only tamei of tamas meis. But there still is a kedusha there, and it's tuma yotzela megufay is not allowed to eat it. So therefore, if a bechor with a mum still has a certain amount of kedusha, that is someone that's tamei tuma yotzela megufay is not allowed to eat it. So therefore, we can say that maybe the kedusha that's there also doesn't allow me to mistreat the meat by taking off the hide in such a way that I'm not going to protect the meat. I'm protecting the hide more than the meat, and that I shouldn't mistreat the meat of this animal because it still retains some of its kedusha. Now the Gemara goes on and says, "V'loi b'psulei hamikdashim." Also psulei hamikdashim, not Mantana. Who's the opinion over there? Really, we could say it's Beis Shammai as well, but the Gemara is going to ask that in a few minutes. First, we give a different opinion. Mantana, Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says it's Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. See, this is so appropriate. We had Pesach Sheni already today in the Daf, and now we have Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. It's Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai's son. And we're going to have Rabbi Shimon himself soon. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah, if someone has two korban chatas that were designated for the same, as an atonement for the same sin. Why would he designate two? He said one is la'achrayas, just in case one gets lost. I have another one. People do that all the time when they go shopping. They need something, they need a flashlight. They say, "Oh, I'll get two just in case." So this fellow, it designates two. Now there's a problem over here. What happened here is achas tmima v'achas balas mum. One of them ends up getting a mum. So, obviously, tmima tikarev, balas mum tifta. The perfect one, the one that's tamim, the one that doesn't have a mum, is the one that's sacrificed. And the one that has a mum, that gets redeemed. Okay, now there's a rule here that if a chatas is brought already for this person, for this individual, and there's a sacrifice that's left over, so that's called chatas sheniskapru balea, that the owner was already atoned. What happens to the other one, to the other chatas? It's put to death. It's you put it to death. You leave it to die. So we have a problem here. If the first chatas is brought as a sacrifice, then the second one you're not going to be allowed to eat. Even though you redeemed it, but it's still going to be, it's still going to retain that status of a chatas, and it's going to be chatas in the skaper bala, and you have to kill it. So how are we going to be able to eat this? The only way you'll be allowed to eat is if you shecht it before the first chatas is brought, because once the atonement takes effect, then the chatas remaining becomes invalid, and it has to be put to death. So nishchata balas mum, if the one that has a blemish is shechted, so we have to look at it like this. If it's before the blood was sprinkled of the other one, then it's muteres, then you can eat it. Why? Because the first chatas wasn't brought yet. So it's not considered a chatas that the atonement was already done, and it doesn't need to be put to death. It's already dead already. But it doesn't need to be destroyed. But if this was shechted after the blood was sprinkled, then it's a surah. It's forbidden. Okay. Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon comes and says, "Afilu basar b'kteira." Even if it's shechted already, it's still, the meat is in the pot cooking. Nizrak damashal tmima, and you go ahead and you shecht the other one, saying like, "Oh, this is already shechted. It can't become invalid now. This the blemished chatas that was redeemed can't become invalid now. It's already slaughtered. I'm cooking it up. We're ready to serve it. Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon says, no. The other chatas gets shechted now. That chatas still has the status of a chatas, even though it's being cooked in a pot, and it's considered chatas in the skapar ba'aleh, and you're not going to be allowed to eat it. It's asura.
But before, still allowed to eat it. Before the other one was sacrificed, this one's still permitted.
Yeah. No, you got to eat this up before the other one is brought. What we're seeing from Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, though, is he says that even after the shechita, it's still considered holy, even though it's in the pot. And what that tells me is that psuli hamikdashim, a sacrifice that has a blemish, needs to be treated with sanctity, and you can't harm the flesh in order to salvage the skin, in order to improve the skin, because you're mistreating the chatas here, even though it's shechted already and it's not a chatas. Okay, now the Gemara asks the question that we mentioned before. We have two cases here. We have a bechor and we have a balmum, and both of them have a blemish. And we said that you're not allowed to peel off the skin in this difficult way to save all the skin. When we asked who's the author of the one with the that's a bechor, who says that you're not allowed to do it to bechor? Said Beishamai. When Rav Chisda says it. When it came to who's the one that says psuli hamikdashim, and the animal that has a sacrifice that has a blemish, he said it's Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. The Gemara is going to ask that it's really both the same case. You could have either chosen Beishamai for both of them. You could have chosen Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon for both of them. It goes like this. V'luk makula Beishamai. Why don't Rav Chisda say that both bechor and psuli hamikdashim is the opinion of Beishamai? The answer is Dilma'ad kan lekam Beishamai ala bechor b'bechor. When does Beishamai say that you have to be so strict that a nida is not allowed to eat from it? It's still considered a sacrifice even after the blemish, the Kedusha Menachem, because that was always holy. You're never going to get rid of that holiness. That was born into holiness. But maybe after it has a blemish, something that was only became holy later, and then it has a blemish, maybe it doesn't retain the holiness after the blemish. So therefore, we need Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Now the Gemara says, okay, look makulak Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. So do it the other way. Say that Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon is the one that says that you can't mistreat a bechor after it has a blemish. That's exactly what he says by a chatas, that it's considered holy even after it's slaughtered. It says Dilmad kan lekam Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Maybe Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon only said his ruling hasam el psuli hamikdashim dalile lemitvas pidyaynei. Over there, psuli hamikdashim, a sacrifice that has a blemish, can be redeemed. That means that the holiness of the sacrifice is so strong that when you do a redemption, the holiness is transferred over to the redemption money. That's because it itself has a strong sanctity that's able to transfer it over. But a bechor is not redeemed. The bechor just gets a mum and it's left like that. The way it's saying it over here is that the holiness of a bechor is not strong enough to go over onto the money. So if that's the case, then maybe Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon wouldn't say that a bechor is that holy, that even after it's slaughtered, that you can't, even though after it's a balmum and it's slaughtered, that you can't treat the flesh with in a degrading way in order to save the hide. Maybe he wouldn't say that. He only says it by psuli hamikdashim. Okay, the Gemara now says Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. If Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon says that you can't mistreat the sacrifice even while it's being cooked in the pot, why? How does he say this? He says it's still considered a sacrifice at that point. So according to him, we had a Mishnah at the beginning of the parak that says that you're allowed to sell the meat of a sacrifice with a blemish in order to increase the value for hektish. He said it wasn't actually the price now that it was going to go, but the fact that you were able to sell it afterwards in the marketplace would mean that the redemption price would be higher. So if that's the case, so Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon that holds that you're never allowed to mistreat the meat, is he going to argue on that Mishnah that you shouldn't be allowed to sell the blemished sacrifice meat in the marketplace. For Rabbi Lazar Bar Shimon, Leslie Kol Psulim Mikdashim Nimkarim Beitlis V'Nishkalim Belitra. Does he hold that you're not allowed to do that? Alma, Kivan Dikar Ravach Lehektish Sharilei. He says that if there's a benefit to hektish, if there's a benefit, why are we allowed to sell it in the marketplace? Because there's because you get the benefit to hektish, because the price increases, and that means hektish is the temple is going to earn more. So we'll forgo on the degrading aspect of how it's being sold in order to increase the value for the temple. So if that's the case, and Rabbi Lazar Bar Shimon obviously agrees to that. That was a Mishnah at the beginning. We didn't have any argument about that. So why? Why does he agree to that? Because we're going to look at the increase of value. So why doesn't he allow you to skin the animal in a way that you'll be able to increase the value of the hide?
But you're doing that at the expense of the meat.
Oh, that's what Gemara's going to answer. I shouldn't have said that. I introduced that at the beginning. But,
it's a shirt.
yeah, I was a spoiler. I spoiled it. Amar Rav Mari, Breder Rav Kana, Mashpiach Bar, Paigim Rabbi. You do it at the expense of the meat. Exactly. So, in other words, even though there is an increase in the hide, but that's not really an increase because it spoils the meat when you do that. So, yes, Rabbi Lazar Bar Shimon would say that you should forgo on something to increase the price, but here it doesn't increase the price. The Marava Mishmei de Ravina Amri. This is interesting. In the West, in Eretz Yisrael, they said in the name of Ravina.